But we planned our lesson in 4 phases. And I think that was really important for online learning, because young people had to feel a familiar structure to all of their lessons. When we talk about remote learning, a familiar and repeat structure is absolutely key. I don't think young people can make good sense of education when they can't ask adults, they don't have a learning support assistant next to them or a teacher at the front. I don't think they make sense out of learning unless there is a clear structure. And our structure was based as closely as possible about what they'd recognise from the classroom. Now, the advantage of the lesson in 4 phases that we went for was twofold. Firstly, familiarity, with pupils having a very predictable and secure environment in which they were learning. Secondly, it really helped teacher planning. It meant that we were able to make the stress levels of our staff reduce because they knew what the framework was they were producing for.
So one of the things that I've done is I've audited our VLE, our learning platform, to have a look to see where we ended up. Certainly we all started off working in the same direction, but perhaps it didn't quite look the way that we were imagined back at that point, where it was all just one of those wonderful, nice to have things. You know, I think as teachers, we work on trying to pack as much as we can, as much information as we can into PowerPoint screens, but what would those actually look like on the devices in the hands of the children? So one of my first things to do before September is to be utterly ruthless. Make sure that everything's cleared down. And then step 2 really is to be prepared. We've got actual inset time planned in September for people to start to look at the online learning space as well as all of the physical spaces. We do need to think about how our systems will cope in the next academic year.
At Vinton, our extracurricular provision is outstanding, and we felt it was important for the children's well-being to maintain this during lockdown. Each week, there were new clubs on offer, and throughout the term, the club's pages were visited over 16,000 times.
The biggest area we sought to assess was kids' well-being, and that's incredibly difficult online. So you use proxies like engagement rates. So how frequently are people logging on? How frequently are they turning in work? And I genuinely, and I'm happy to say as a national state-paid DFE head teacher, that the biggest thing I was assessing for our young people was engagement rates, connectedness, and just being in the game. And I think that's the most important thing we assessed.
But I have to say we have got some absolutely gifted technicians here, and my infrastructure manager is amazing and managed to work out a way so that every device that we lent still went through all of our filters, and we actually have some software on computers, laptops as well that do tracking. And that's true whether you're a brand new year 7 or the executive head teacher. The same safeguarding software is on every single device in the school.
We have KEYS members within our school who are the only ones that can be in contact with our families, whether they're the parents, carers, or guardians of our students. And they will ask a few basic questions. First of all, how are you? Looking at how they were and understanding the context in which they were actually operating within, so that we understood and made no assumptions. And then we ask, what technology do you actually have at home? And they were very open and honest, because they could see from the get-go that we were there to support them and to support them during this challenge, and also support them to do the distance learning that we undertook. We got some very honest answers, so we had a clear idea about what was actually in place. In-house, though, we actually offered, as Kate Rad said, bite-sized training opportunities. So no more than 5 minutes and very practical. So, for example, how to include audio within your PowerPoints that could actually aid the learning. But what was even more magical is that even through this virtual space, we were able to undertake good practice, share good practice. One of our staff members that teaches students with global learning delays actually showed the PowerPoint that she used from beginning to end that enabled them to continue with their learning in a meaningful way. And we could actually celebrate that and actually view it in ways we hadn't quite been able to do before. But we streamlined it just to remove the complexity and made sure that students were clear about what they had to do to 3 concepts. So any feedback that we gave in writing or orally focused on these 3 aspects: what was done well, what they needed to improve, and specific actions to implement, which was really powerful. Because where our students struggled with home learning, maybe because of the fact that because they've been out of school, they hadn't actually established the homework routines, we were able to use the lesson time online to actually get them to action things, so they could see how their learning had actually adapted by updating information and the learning points. We had a Friday focus for well-being, which undertook a number of different things, including the celebrations of birthdays and any positive news that we experienced. But furthermore, we had quizzes, Kahoot, to review our learning and also to just see how it worked in action. We even played games like Stop the Bus, and you can see by my face, I'd never encountered this before, but it was quite an interesting experience that actually enabled us to take our mind off the serious aspects we're actually encountering. And also one memorable aspect where we had our art teacher leading the morning and actually asking us to bring a piece of art that meant something to us. And through that activity, it enabled us to learn each other. We had frequent opportunities to laugh together as a team, and this fostered an even more of a cohesive team that were trying to do the very, very best for the young people that we actually serve.
Each year group worked together in their team to develop their sites. They were able to upload material, working together from their homes, accessing the content before it went live to students. This was one of the benefits of Frog, as it enabled teachers to continue collaborating together at a distance to plan the learning. Although the teachers were understandably worried about how they and the students would manage remote learning, they quickly acquired new skills and gained confidence building up the sites. Each year group had a Frog leader who was able to support less confident colleagues, and non-English speaking teachers also built the sites easily.
So in looking at and analysing why students weren't engaged in some of the things that were online, we talked to them and they said, well, we just want to get on with it. And so I think in summary, I think we can broadly consider that the act of a student opening an online task is the point at which they are or have the potential to be a motivated learner. And therefore we are not trying to create motivation in the tasks that we set. We have to assume that they are in that moment and we must capitalise on it. So we want to design tasks that enable students to just get on with it without removing the ability for them to make choices or have challenge, but those need to be appropriate. Now, we would say at our school that we do give students a choice in the classroom, but let's be honest, when they went home and we weren't there, they found it very difficult to make the choices we were asking them to make, because too many of them came straight back to the teachers and went, I don't know what to do. So whilst we have to address that, in the meantime, we need to make sure that we don't give them choices that they can't choose, because it exacerbates point 1, which was that they need security. So they want to know they're doing the right thing. If we give them a choice that means that they're not sure they're doing the right thing, immediately they'll feel insecure in the work that they are doing.
And I want to celebrate everybody who has grasped the unprecedented issues that we've had with COVID-19 and how you've been able to manage and find the fizz to celebrate it and to put it on a global platform. Whether you use Frog or not, the most crucial thing is that we find out how we can engage our students, develop our teachers to be even better than what they already are, and to be okay sometimes when things don't go quite right. When you check in with somebody and you say, you okay? How are things going? then what you do is that if there's a response where thing is absolutely fine, you just say, okay, well, I'll check up with you later. And this is not just from an emotional point of view, but this is from an academic learning point of view as well. When things seem to be settled and that you're happy, what you can do is actually you can check out. So think about when you're looking at finding emotional fizz for somebody, that you do the check in, check up, and then check out system. And that's about that showing that extra little bit of well-being care. Because if we don't feed the heart to feed the brain so that we can create happy, healthy, really safe environments, really secure learning environments, but to value everybody in that community of learning, then it's not going to work. For me, every morning after I've read a brilliant, brilliant book called The Miracle Morning, I wake up and I ask myself, Nina, what's your purpose today? Because if I don't have a purpose, then I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I'm not really sure how I'm going to impact on others, on the world, or even on myself. So starting each day with what's my purpose, reminding ourselves that there'll be real highs and there'll be terrible, sad lows as well. But riding those waves is actually what brings brilliant well-being to a balanced place.
Peer-to-peer support, the dominant features. At the fore, however, is great teaching and an understanding of learning, structured teaching with clarity of explanation and scaffolding and personalised feedback. Centre staging all of this is the importance of independent learning skills and support for metacognition and the need for self-reflection by students and indeed by teachers.
What about things like giving them the responsibility to say, well, actually, if you believe you are unsafe, you can call the police. You can talk to people. There's no reason why you can't call the police. You can't call somebody in your local area for social services. It's all well and good, like I say, saying, well, yeah, contact school, but actually, it's not wrong to give students access to these numbers. Now, again, using the power of Frog, which, you know, is amazing. We've got on here, these are called, this little link called telephone links. Literally, students could click on those numbers and it actually would ring. So again, the students have to got to worry about, you know, going out and kind of writing stuff down and then ringing on their phones. Literally, they press those numbers. If they're on a mobile device, it would actually automatically ring. If you've got a fantastic website that you think is really important, tell us. You let us know. We'll then look at that wonderful website. We will decide, actually, do you know what it is? That is really useful. Let's add it to our list. And then as we were going along, we were actually picking up the information from the students and then putting it on our wonderful site, giving the students a bit of ownership over it, allowing them to basically say, well, actually, I tried that website. It was pants. I tried that app. It was amazing.
So they would be able to find different areas where they would see overviews of what maybe the condition was, what symptoms they might see, certain positive interventions that could be put in place. But also within them interventions, there would be case studies that people have made within the school of how them interventions have worked, what the learner was like, and different aspects of how it worked. So within the Tech Lab, what we did is we looked at what different systems would staff either need to use at work or systems that would be enjoyable to work with. So Photoshop or iMovie might be something that someone might take up and enhance their skills. Or it might have been the fact that we're using Teams at work because a lot of our meetings then became Teams. So what we did is we created video tutorials that were created by the staff for the staff. These were also used with some students. So for instance, when they were doing iMovie in class, they were using the same as what the teachers would use.
not so much what you do when it comes to your technology and your teaching for learning. It's the way that you do it, and the choices you make again relate back to directly to your context in your school. Lots of us have heard these terms asynchronous and synchronous, but hybrid learning is actually that thing where we blend those things together, and hybrid learning is often sort of has that term blended learning in there as well, and they're very much of a similar sort of a nature when you bring these two things together. And a polar approach we found during lockdown, where you have either one approach or the other approach, has tended to not be very successful. And so thinking carefully about how you blend these things together is much more likely to bring wins and things for you. And something that's really central to that, and that's been again resonated and really echoed through in nearly all of the presentations today, it goes to that really important triangulation between parents, the school and the child, and that wrapper we can put around there. Education is a force for good, and there is more that unites us than divides us. Here we are today, we're learning and sharing together. We're giving up time, most of us, during our actual school summer holidays. And we are stronger together. And we see that by the bucket load.